This is completely unacceptable. You were required to submit these permits by close of business yesterday, and now we have this mess.
I assure you, everything is in order.
At 6:12 a.m., I opened my front door to cold air and the smell of wet asphalt and almost slipped on a mountain of paper taped to my own marble porch columns. My motion lights were still on, buzzing and flickering over my front lawn like a crime scene. Every column, every glass panel, even my bronze lion knocker, was plastered with violation notices in angry red ink. 63 pages. I counted. My trash cans, my paint color, my driveway, even my kid's basketball hoop. Every page had a threat of fines. I stood there in my robe, coffee steaming in my hand, looking at my 10,000 square foot dream home turned into a bulletin board of shame. I knew exactly who did it. Our HOA president. Karen with the clipboard. So yeah, HOA posted 63 pages of violations on my mansion porch in 48 hours, then I pulled the permit, and that is what this fight is about. The first notice said I had 48 hours to correct all deficiencies or face daily fines. The last page said they could put a lien on my house. My house. That I rebuilt after a fire, with every inspection passed. I marched to the clubhouse that same afternoon. Her office door was open, her peppermint coffee scent filling the hallway. I tried to reason with her, calm, adult. I said, "This has to be a mistake." She didn't even look up. "Rules are rules," she said, pen clicking. Behind me, a neighbor who used to wave at me stared at the floor like I was contagious. I asked for an appeal. She pointed me to a form on the wall, the kind you tear off like a cheap flyer. The earliest hearing date? July 29th at 9:00 p.m., months away. I said, "Karen, my violations are all made up. The paint color is approved. The driveway is approved. The porch railings are in the catalog." She smiled in that slow way and said, "The board has concerns about your property values and community character." I looked through the glass door at the other board members. No one met my eyes. One actually slid his chair back like he was scared. That was when I felt something click in my chest. Fine. If they wanted paperwork, I would give them paperwork. On the walk home, I replayed everything. The late-night security guard driving past my house again and again. The anonymous notes about my guests parking on the street. The weird looks when my contractors showed up after the fire. My line in the sand showed up right there on my front steps, taped in red ink. I promised myself I would use proper channels only. No yelling. No crazy stunts. Just facts. I went inside, sat at my kitchen island, and started my own investigation. Timeline item 1 April 5th at 4:27 a.m. false trespass call on my licensed contractors. Timeline item 2 May 3rd, 2024, at 2:15 p.m. surprise driveway inspection. I lined up photos, emails, and call logs in a binder until the cover almost wouldn't close. The next day I went downtown, to the city building department, where the air smelled like old paper and printer toner. I asked for every public record related to our HOA and recent complaints about my address. The clerk raised an eyebrow, printed, clicked, and then the file landed with 63 pages right on the counter. But it wasn't about me. It was about them. Complaints against the HOA for harassment. Prior investigations into selective enforcement. An old warning about calling the police on residents for no reason. Patterns of false reports can be prosecuted. That one line from the city guide burned into my brain. And then I saw it, my own master rebuild permit, stamped approved, with clear language. In our state, HOAs cannot override city building permits. The clerk tapped the stamp and said, "This is your golden ticket." That was the moment I truly pulled the permit. 2 weeks later, at the emergency HOA meeting I demanded with a certified letter, the clubhouse was packed. Neighbors lined the walls, phones out, cameras already rolling. My violation pages were stacked on one side of the table. My binder and the thick city file were on the other. Karen sat at the head of the table in her beige blazer like a queen. She started to talk about community standards. I cut in, calm. Tonight is actually about law. I slid the master rebuild permit across the table, big blue approved stamp facing her. Then I laid down the city's file on the HOA, page by page, names blacked out, dates not. People leaned in. I read one of the old warnings out loud. I explained, slowly, that they had no legal right to override this permit, or harass me, or threaten a lien over things the city already signed off on. The room shifted. Someone near the back laughed, short and shocked. Another neighbor whispered, "So they're the ones breaking rules." Phones were up high now, catching every page I turned. When I got to the part about false reports and the line that said the HOA president had been personally warned years ago, someone actually clapped. The city inspector I'd invited as my guest stepped forward and confirmed it into the microphone. He said the city would be opening a formal review into the HOA's actions. The board members suddenly found very interesting things to look at on the floor. Karen's face went pink, then pale. The police liaison, also there because of prior calls, said very clearly that if any more false complaints were made against my property, charges could follow. The crowd murmured, half shocked, half delighted. The fallout came fast. Within a week, the board posted a notice that all fines against my property were canceled and all violation records removed. New rules said board members had to go through training and could not patrol at night acting like security. 2 months later, Karen resigned for personal reasons, but everyone knew the city review had quietly recommended it. The neighborhood actually felt lighter. Kids played basketball in my driveway again. My next-door neighbor, the one who used to avoid eye contact, brought over a plate of cookies and said, "You did what we were all scared to do." I sat on my clean, violation-free porch, breathing in the smell of fresh-cut grass instead of cold fear, and watched the sun set over my not perfect, but perfectly legal mansion. Please follow for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.